Hi, I'm designer Joy, and I hope you're enjoying the Baby Lock Love of Sewing Challenge. And I thought I would just give you a little bit of extra information or kind of behind the scenes thoughts on the whole process. And so when we were given this challenge from Baby Lock, we had really just a couple guidelines. Everyone that's participating was given a specific feature on the machine. Mine is the guideline marker. And then we were given kind of a color palette that they wanted us to probably include, but it wasn't totally required. And then we had a nice selection of Riley Blake fabrics that we could choose from. And I knew right away that I wanted to include some sort of gold fabric and probably some sort of navy. Those are colors you often associate with Baby Lock. And so that was kind of a jumping off point. And so I thought I would sit down here and kind of go through my thought process, or how did I come up with my design, which is sometimes a question that people will give me. So the first thing I want to show you is I have this sketch right here, and this is actually a photocopy of my pattern that we are using in the project. Now, we're not making a prom style gown that has lace over top of it, and if you haven't seen yet, the finished design is about knee length. It's much shorter, but the silhouette is something that I thought, yeah, it's a very simple shape that we can do, and we've omitted the top lace layer on there, but I'm keeping kind of that dress silhouette, and I thought would just be a really good foundation for the techniques that I'm featuring, and as I've mentioned in other lessons, that you can kind of apply what I'm teaching to any garment and whatever you're making. So that was just kind of how I selected the silhouette or the shape of the design. Now, what I really love is that I'm always picking inspiration, and whether it's from magazines or pictures or whatever, and I have had this following picture in my collection for a while, and I really love everything about it. I love the tweed fabrics and the combination of lace and the silhouette, and this is actually from one of my favorite designers, or my all-time favorite designer, which is Christian Dior. And I've always loved them. And because I was inspired by that, and I knew at some point I wanted to use this as inspiration, and it just fit with this particular project. So I went to my fabric stash, and I've got some of my racks behind me, if you can see that, and I've got other fabrics, and I knew that I didn't want kind of a prom style design, but I really wanted just a really good kind of classic style fabric that anyone really could wear, and then they could spice it up and wear it to work, or change it that way. And again, not everyone's gonna wear dressy prom fabrics every day, but you can wear wool any time of the year, even if it's hot, because there are a lot of wool fabrics that are lightweight and breathable, and they're just a really beautiful fabric to sew on, and not always the most expensive, but good fabrics also help your projects really be successful in the end as well. So these are some things that were in my stash, and I selected everything from this bright wool yellow, which I have some ideas for this one that I had been mulling around with, and I almost selected this for my design, but it's a little too bright for the direction I wanted to go. So you'll have to wait and see what I have in mind for that, but it's inspiration. There are other fabrics like these cotton piqué, which are lovely for doing kind of day dresses or shirts or everyday designs. But again, the color was a little bright for me. But those were some things that I was looking at. I love suiting fabrics, and here, for example, is a really great suiting, and these can be worn for men or women depending on what you're making. And this one almost made the cut. This was almost my final cut until I found this, and I love herringbone, and it had that hint of yellow, which if you play it right can pull off as gold, and it was just enough in there that I knew that this was my starting piece. Now, before I selected this, I actually have this in my collection, and it's in my pile of, I really want to sew this for myself, and it's a beautiful wool fabric that would be just a beautiful skirt. It has the pinstripe stitching in there. I love this fabric. It's one of my favorites, and that actually was going to be the first one that I selected before I kind of went through this other thought process, but I'm a little selfish on that one. I really wanted to keep that, and because I'm going to be doing some other stitching and things on there, I decided against that, and we'll save that for another day. You might see me wearing that sometime soon, but this was the one that I selected, and the next task was incorporating my other colors. Now, in my stash, I had a couple years ago, I actually inherited a really high-end fabric collection from a lady in our local sewing guild, and she had all these, I mean, they have the fabric, the tickets still on them. They're Italian wools and tons of different colors, so I have a very nice collection now to choose from for solid fabrics, and this navy was in there, and I knew, like I said, I wanted to incorporate some navy. It was ideal, it was perfect, so that's how that one came about. I just needed to then find my final piece, and that's where I brought in some of the yellow, and that makes me think very Ralph Lauren, like the navy and the yellow, but it's a great match. It's not so bright as the other, but it's a really nice shade of yellow. And then our last kind of cream color. This is just beautiful. Now see how that changes that up just a little bit? Let me kind of hold this here. It's kind of a handful. It's very classy, and of course you'll see in the finished design with what we're doing with the lace application. It's a great, very fun kind of aesthetic, you know, using classic fabrics, but cut in a fun way. Because I'm not really a tailored navy blouse or navy blazer sewer. You know, I love those fabrics, but I like to spice it up and make it a little more fun. So that's kind of how that looks. But I'm kind of curious, what are your opinions on the fabrics? Do you like this combination? Would you like more of a suiting material? So that would work. I mean, that's lovely, right? And then let's look at some shades of tan. And there's so many things to choose from. This beautiful, move these around here just a little bit, so we'll go back to our original. You know, you can throw in that tan color, and it's not quite as yellow as the stripe in there, but you know, different color tones, and people like to wear different colors, and so if you want something a little darker than maybe a creamy color, that sits in there really nice. And then I actually have a really beautiful, here we go, this tan is lovely as well. It's a little more I don't know how you would describe it, kind of muted, and again, it's not quite as yellow as the stripe in there, so it wouldn't be my first choice, but I have some clients that wear colors like this all the time, and they look wonderful on them. So depending on how your skin color is, that really can determine whether a fabric or color is successful on you or not as well. So it's nice to have a good selection and to kind of play around there with that. The last one that kind of went through the whole thought process was this nice stark white twill or denim, and it's great. I love the bright contrast that opens it up a lot. This fabric ended up just being a little bit too heavy for what I wanted, so ultimately that's kind of was why that one wasn't selected. But if I go back to my final selection, we'll throw the cream back on there, and then I have my navy fabric in here. I think it's hidden under the pile. There we go. So you can kind of see here when I put the navy in there, that ended up being my final selection for the design. And sometimes, you know, whether you're choosing a lighter or darker color, sometimes it's just personal preference, so it's not a right or wrong. But that's what I ended up choosing, and I think it made the design very successful. But yeah, you're seeing this on Facebook, so you know, comment below. Tell me, what do you think? Do you like the creamy color? Do you like the stark white? Are you a person who would wear more of the camel brown, or do you love a really bright yellow on there? Let me know it's just, you know, kind of fun to throw around design ideas, and let's throw this suiting in there as well. That's great. So just know that there are a lot of fabrics that can be used in a lot of different garments in a lot of different ways.